We're leveraging complex workflows, but not making the user need to know about the detail of that.
There's a lot of different players that are involved.
One of the cooler panels so far that has been developed.
It makes it a very efficient and very powerful solution.
Basically go to anything, right?
But they aren't going to really have to learn that we exist.
The world of production and post-production is complex.
And we want to simplify and not have people have to learn something new. It's effectively seamless.
Hi, and welcome to Making the Media with me, Craig Wilson, and my Avid colleague, Ray Thompson. It's great to have you with us.
Yes, Craig, and I hope everyone's enjoying the season so far. We're very excited about the guests that we've had, but we're also really excited about the upcoming episodes.
Yeah, that's right, Ray. On this episode, we're joined by the Chief Technology Officer for Marquis, Simon Fearn. Now, Ray, I know you've worked with Marquis for a long time, and they're a key technology partner for us here at Avid, aren't they? So tell us a little bit about Marquis and what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been a great Avid partner for some time now. They've got some great integrations with Nexus and with MediaCentral, offering ways to do some intelligent archiving of your assets with an understanding of Avid projects, bins, and workspaces. So super valuable, lots of customers using it out there in the wild. But their more recent integration is the one we're really going to focus on, which is through the panel in Media Composer, which are now called extensions. And basically, it's the Medway extension. And what Medway does is it allows for ingesting file-based media from some of the most popular solutions out there in the market, both Sony and LiveView. So if you use LiveView units out there in the field, as many do, or if you're a Sony shop or you use a combination of both, the great news is that you can now very easily through the panel go ahead and ingest that directly into Media Composer as file-based media. And basically the way it works is through Marquis, you can ingest the proxy media as soon as it's available as a growing file. And that works whether you have production management or not, right? You can be in a non-production management environment and you can still edit a growing file because of what Marquis has done under the hood. And you then edit your sequence, right? So you can have multiple people collaborating as always, using Media Composer as they love to. And then when you're done and you have a sequence, you can then right-click and request for the high-res media to then go out and bring in just the media that's in that sequence, which is not only saving time, but it's also saving space on your Nexus, right? So it's not duplicating media that's unnecessary, right? It's only bringing in the high res that's in that sequence. So it's a really compelling solution. We've shown it now for, I guess, a year and a half at various different IBCs and NABs, and they're just a great group, and they're very, very smart and super savvy with all things Avid. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's great. So let's get to it and hear from Simon, who first of all told us a little bit about his career to date.
I've been with Marcus for some time now. I actually joined, especially on a side in detailing and getting into detailing customers' workflows and actually getting into a consultancy level of going through and understanding how people are going to be working in terms of operations and their workflows and building that through. And over time, I became more and more involved in the software side of the business. And took on the roles originally of product manager and then now CTO to go through and help use that original understanding I had in terms of workflow and operational behavior and bring that through into the products as well, because obviously while we're producing technical solutions, they have to fit into users' workflows and make life easier for users. So I see it as a benefit of coming from that kind of background to bring through into what we're doing at the technical level as well, and really try to help people in their work.
Yeah, one thing just to pick up on something that you said there, and what you said in your first answer as well, is that the world of production and post-production is complex. There's a lot of different players that are involved, and not everybody does everything. So to an extent, is it Marquis identifying where, to an extent, there's maybe workflow gaps or other solutions that can really help benefit that end-to-end pipeline, I guess, as part of what your work is?
In part, yes. There's always we can always say that people are looking to or would want to use an old-fashioned phrase, best-of-breed solutions in the different areas, to use what they want to use in a different area and then try and make everything work together. Now, as the world's gone on, people have made that a lot easier to work with each other. Everyone's more open than we used to be in years gone by, but there's definitely areas where we help and bringing those worlds together, and areas where we can add features and add functionality into connectivity between the various systems. And again, allow people to choose what they want to work with, not have them force their situation down a particular path, and really trying to just allow people to use what they want to use and hide that complexity of it making things work together from them as much as possible. Users don't need to care about the complexity of what's going to happen in a background connection. They need to know that the tool that they're using does what they need to do on a daily basis, and they can link it into the other bits that they need to work with. And we kind of sit in that area, especially for the integration solutions with what we do.
Now, there's a variety of products and things that we're going to talk about today. One of them is the panel for Media Composer. One of them is another application called Project Parking. It's been around for quite a long time. Before we delve into each of them, individually, just highlight, what you see as the kind of key products and workflows that Marquis enable with an Avid solution, because there's a variety of different ones.
Yeah, so we have, I suppose, two sides to the products that we offer in that area. We have our Medway products and family of products, which is very much about integration workflows and bring those workflows together and the solutions together to connect systems and enable media and metadata to flow through the environments. And then we have the, let's say, management solutions, which are the project parking and the workspace tools and post-flux, which are there to work with individual projects or individual functions and allow those to be brought through for the purposes that they're aiming for, which we'll get into. So we kind of separate out between a media and metadata workflows and more management functionality.
Simon, as it relates specifically to production management and MediaCentral generally, right, there are some excellent solutions that we have that are integrated with Nexus too. Do you want to talk a little bit about the workspace sync and some of the sort of project parking that's possible on all the platforms?
Yeah, sure. So we have the products within that management area. Project Parking historically was the first one we did. Project Parking was a tool that allowed us to really understand Media Composer projects and the relationship between projects and media, and allowed us to make decisions based around that understanding. In the case of Project Parking, that allowed us to archive and restore and back up projects, and cleanly by what's actually used by a project, and that was something we could expand out. And we expanded that out into the sister product, which is Workspace Tools, which includes two main functions within it, a workspace backup solution and a workspace sync. The workspace backup allows us to just do an entire backup of a workspace, just everything, but to do so in a way that's project aware and allow us to back up the project files as well and make sure everything's available as a versioned backup of those projects to give you expedited restore principles. And that's very useful for backup and true disaster recovery. But then we also have the workspace sync opportunity within the product, and that was originally designed more for business continuity. Allows us to take a workspace and synchronize it to another workspace. And that could be local, that could be remote. We have various methods of syncing to remote tools.
So at the end of the day, when companies are thinking about like a backup and recovery strategy, right, this would be an important tool set that would fit into that strategy.
Yeah, and it gives them the choice of how they want to approach it. And do they want to do a pure disaster recovery system or a continuity system? Do they just want to have a choice of have a process in place to get things back quickly in the event of a failure? Or do they want to have something else available somewhere else that you can just work on in the other location? So there's a mixed strategy that someone can use and how to handle those issues. And they could choose one, they could choose both.
For the workspace sync, it doesn't have to go just to say, any tier of storage, right? It can basically go to anything, right? So you can go from Nexus to Nexus, of course, but you can also then go to other tiers, including cloud.
The only restriction we have on the workspace sync is we're looking for something that looks like a workspace. In terms of the base connectivity, as long as it looks like a workspace, then it could just be going from one tier to another tier. So when we're doing that connection, we know what to expect based on the way that the Avid workspaces are built up. We're just looking for that in the configuration. But yes, in terms of how you choose to use it, yes, you could just be using for moving through tiers.
Yeah, the question I was going to ask is that obviously back at NAB in April, Avid announced the partnership with AWS, where Media Composer and Nexus running in an AWS environment. Do you see that as a big opportunity for Marquis because of the sort of workflows that you described there, Simon, about syncing from on-prem to cloud and being able to do that in a really simple and effective way?
We do very much so. And alongside the work that you've been doing yourselves, so the work you've been doing on the Nexus client allows that connection from the local system to the AWS system to have very limited problems with latency. So from our point of view, when we're running to do the synchronization, the fact that one of them is running within AWS is just another workspace. We'll just connect to it. It's effectively seamless. And from the user's perspective as well, that will make life easy again. They'll just choose to do a synchronization from local to the AWS instance, and it'll be very easy to get that content being pushed up. And obviously, synchronizations we'll be doing it on a regular basis and then taking changes and taking deltas. So it'll be very efficient as well. So yes, we definitely see an area for that. And as I say, with the work that you've done yourself within the Nexus client, it makes it a very efficient and very powerful solution.
One of the other areas that you mentioned earlier on is that, generally within the industry, things are a lot more open than they used to be. There used to be a lot of proprietary stuff that was going on. What difference do you think that's made to the kind of interoperability that can now exist to effectively create those best of breed solutions? What difference has that made? Because obviously, from an Avid perspective, one of the things that we're very keen to do through solutions like yourselves and with others that are enabled through things like the Media Composer panel, for example, is to open up workflows. So what difference do you think that openness and interoperability, what differences generally for the industry do you think it makes?
We're not having to try and find solutions that will do enough. We can now try to come up with solutions that do what people want and what they actually need. And that openness and the extra power that we'll get from the tools like the panel just really gives more opportunity to do better solutions. In the past, you may have had to restrict what feature set you can offer or what expectations you can give to people and say by just having a limit to how far you can go. And now that gives an extra opportunity to just go that extra step and give something that's better. And ultimately, we're always going to be looking to try and make a better experience for the users and a more efficient process for the customers. We have to be looking to do that, and everything that we gain that gives us more opportunity to add functionality in or put better clearer functionality in is really an opportunity for us.
Yeah, Ray mentioned obviously the workflows that you've had for a number of years with Interplay and MediaCentral and with Nexus, but now with the panel in Media Composer, we have a lot of customers where their traditional workflow is Media Composer and Nexus storage, and that's what they do. They don't have that asset management layer that sits on top. So tell us a little bit about the kind of opportunities you think there are for the panel type workflows that you guys can implement.
Well, we've always been able to say that we have solutions in the Avid example that will work from any Avid system, from a standalone Media Composer through to a full MediaCentral system. But when we're looking at the non-asset management based MediaCentral Media Composer usage, there was always some limits that we'd have in what we could do, or some elements of control we had to put in around how the user would be able to operate with it. And we got around lots of these by having our own client application that could be installed on the Media Composer to allow things to be done. But that always means that there's an extra tool that somebody needs to learn how to use. And there's an extra thing that needs to be worked on, which just adds to the complexity from a user's point of view. By having the panel available to us, we're able to still offer the power, the functionality in the integrations we have at the core Medway system, but now start to tailor it into a direct Media Composer workflow. So users aren't going to have to learn, well, they aren't going to really have to learn that we exist. Okay, we'll have our name on the panel, but ultimately they'll go to panel, find what they need to work with, and use it in Media Composer. From their point of view, they're using Media Composer. And again, we want to simplify and not have people have to learn something new, and have that all within that single environment. And by being hosted locally, we're going to get a lot more opportunity, a lot more power in what we can do functionally within the panel as well. We've started off by effectively allowing the panels to allow the integration and the connectivity into the central Medway system. So all of the workflows we have connecting different people's source environments or different workflows for cameras or proxies, whatever we do, we can enable all of that just with a simple panel. But then as we go forward, again, I'll come back to it, there's more opportunity for us to add functionality in. And we'll see that coming through in the next iterations that we'll be doing with the panels shortly as well. Just taking the opportunity to gain extra advantage from being hosted locally inside the Media Composer. So it's really is a good opportunity for us.
Yes, and to that end, Simon, I think one of the cooler panels so far that has been developed, and kudos to all of you for the work that you did to create it, is the Medway panel. Do you want to describe just a little bit about the Medway panel, what it does, and what are some of the benefits?
Yeah, so the Medway panel is effectively a window into what the background Medway system is doing, and the background Medway will be normally configured to allow, as an example, integrations with third-party systems. So we've demonstrated at previous trade shows integrations with LiveView and Sony and various customers, whereby we can allow them to pass content into the Avid environment. And then we have automated workflows handling the media metadata workflows from their point of view, and lots of complicated things going on. But from a user's perspective, the Medway panel will allow them to see into the core system and see the files as they're transferred, and then just choose them and bring them into the bin. So again, that complexity of the core workflows are being hidden. From the user's point of view, they're just able to see, I need to use some media. It happens to all be here within this nice list. I can go and select it and bring it in and start working on it. So it allows us to give the power of the workflows we're doing to Medway level, to allow the users to basically work from the results and not need to know what's going on in the background. We'll show them enough for them to know where things are coming from. But again, if there's a complex multi-stage process going through cloud and on-premise and through various conversions, they don't need to know that. They just need to know, here's my file, here's my thumbnail, show me exactly what each file is, and I can bring it in. And we'll expand on that as we go forward now. To in the next release, we'll be showing ways of doing this on purely on media composers with growing file support coming through from these providers as well. So we're adding that into the functions as well. So we'll keep going from that. But yes, we're just, again, I'll come back to a recurring theme. We're leveraging complex workflows, but not making the user need to know about the detail of that. They can just work on the content they need to work on.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think the sort of, if you think about contribution really from any one of these broadly adopted platforms, whether it's Sony and Sony C or the LiveView, right? Everybody uses LiveView. You can now do contribution directly into Avid production environments, whether they're Media Composer and Nexus or the full-blown Media Composer with production management and everything else. It's compatible across the board. And it's really facilitating, faster workflows because editors can start, editing proxies right away. And then when they're done with their sequence, they basically use Medway to go and fetch the high-res media and drop it right into the bin. And that is, again, driving automation in a way, right? It's also driving efficiency. And it's really allowing the editors to get at the content much faster. And this works in an on-prem environment. It can do contribution into a cloud environment. We've shown it actually in the cloud for the last several NAB shows where it's been running in the cloud. So it's a pretty exciting panel to have. And I think it really drives a lot of value, right, for customers to have it integrated. And like you said, Simon, the intelligence of what you guys baked into it under the hood so that the user really just stays in the creative moments, right? And doesn't necessarily have to think about all the things that maybe without panel, they would have had to more or less hurdle over, right? Technically. So kudos to you guys.
Yeah, from an engineering perspective, it's always nice to be able to talk about the clever and complex stuff that you've been doing, but the users don't need to know that. They just need to know what they need to know to work.
I want to pick up a little bit on a slightly different tack, which is about the actual integration of the panel and the work that you've done around the panel itself. But to talk a little bit about how that process has been in terms of, you want to do a panel. Have you had, help from Avid to get it done? How's that actual kind of iteration sort of process has gone through to get the panel done, if you like? I wonder if you talk just a little bit about that process.
Yeah, sure. So we had help from Ray and the team. Basically, the process we took was to dedicate some resource looking into it and defining an initial use case. So we didn't take it just as an exercise to work out how to use the panel. We gave the development team a use case of, we want you to do a panel, we want it to do this. And that was a limited feature set to start off with, but we gave it that initial use case to make sure that he had something to work on and not just treat it as a science exercise. And that helps him to go through and build up the details and ask the right questions in terms of how am I going to make use of the panel to, in this case, to connect into an external system, and how we're going to work alongside that, and how we're going to pass the data between the panel and the core system and back and forth. So we started with a basic design, but gave him a guided workflow to come through. And Ray and his team helped us go through those basic questions on how to build that, how to distribute it, and how to test it to make sure that we'd done it right, and we didn't break anything. And then once we're happy with that, and from the Avid side, you signed off that we'd done things correctly and not broken anything. Then we were able to start looking into the features and expanding out the functionality we could have within that, and that's what came into that first release. It came out a year ago, 18 months ago. And now we've been building on that based on having the understanding we've had from the architecture of how we've made everything work for us, but then also to increase the feature set. Now we see what's available to us, and that will see probably a big jump when we get into the next release.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask about was, so the initial process that you described really well there has given you that understanding, but you see more potential that can be done by your increasing knowledge of what the panel can actually offer, and that whole process is around building on that to deliver more features and more functionality in the future.
Yeah, definitely. There's a certain amount of features and functionality that we'll get from the Media Composer side and the functionality that panel offers to us, and then there's the expertise and the detail of what we'd like to do from the external side that brings into it from that side as well. And it's finding the balance between the two and how to make the two work together, and then also to make sure the solution works for the widest range of customers as well. So we don't necessarily want to come up with a solution that's going to require everyone to have a large Medway system and lots of connections. We want to try and have a solution that would work for smaller systems as well, or even individual users, and try to give them that support the full scale of users as we go through.
Yeah, I think that's something that's important to mention, Simon, is that you talked about earlier on, Marquis and Avid have worked together for a very long time. And while, the panel implementation is relatively new, everything you've talked about is real, exists, it's in the market, it's being used by real people just now as well. So, this isn't, going back to a phrase you used earlier on, this isn't a science project. This is actually things that are delivering practical benefits to our mutual customers and have been for years.
Oh, yeah. Everything's built on things that exist, and we're finding new ways of presenting that in ways that benefit the users. We can do a certain amount of, let's say, science level work, but we also have to be practical and based on real world need. And we always aim to do that. But yes, everything that we've talked about exists and is available and can always be shown immediately.
So Simon, looking ahead to your crystal ball, what's your plans for the future?
Keep busy. So we have a lot of things coming through over the next, let's say, the next few months. As mentioned or alluded to there, we're definitely doing some more work on the panel. So there'll be more features coming through for that quite shortly, especially targeted at giving us options to go to smaller scale situations, but with no reduction in functionality, actually with an increase in functionality. So that will be coming shortly. Within the product area and the management product area, we have an addition coming to the Postflux family. Postflux is a product that we made which is similar to Project Parking, but rather than being based around Media Composer, is more open in the project types it can work with. And we'll shortly be launching the first version of that for Pro Tools use. So Pro Tools users will be able to go through and archive and backup and administer their projects and sessions in the same way that we can within the other products, and still giving them version controlled archives and backups that they can work with for that as well. So that will be coming very shortly. And then we're still doing more work in various areas to try and make things better for the users and give the efficiencies to the customers. We're starting talking soon about some work we've done initially with a customer in the UK based around getting some efficiencies in their end credit production, especially when they're working with an Avid system again for doing their program creation, to give them a speedier and more efficient process for creating end credits for, especially for seasonal or regular programming, where there's a lot of content, a lot of programs that need to be worked on. You'll start seeing us talking about that soon as well. So yeah, there's plenty for us to keep working on. And the Medway side, that will continue to develop. There's always new areas for us to work for on that, more features, more connectivity, and more functions that will be coming through from that family as well.
Well, that was great, and it was always great to hear from Simon. He's such a great Avid partner, and Marquis is such a great company, and they've done such a nice job with the integration. We really appreciate both them as a group, but also Simon for being on with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to hear from Simon. And their work really does power a whole range of different solutions across the post and enterprise world. Carrying on in that theme, next time around on the podcast, it's going to be another hot ticket in the post-production world. We are going to be speaking with Peter Bush, who is the SVP of Customer Success at Flawless, and they are breaking new ground with their panel extension in Media Composer, which is very, very cool. And let's get a flavour of the episode, which is coming up.
Our technology does the magic.
Hang on a second, this is AI doing the acting now.
Workflow is significantly more important.
Which really changes how you approach, I think, the entire process.
Avid's reputation of building professional-grade workflows aligns very well with what we're seeing as professional-grade innovation.
A completely different paradigm, if you like, for the experience that people have. It's quite extraordinary.
Everything is cut on an Avid. Everything.
It was really great to speak with Peter. Flawless is really just on the cutting edge of what's happening in the space. AI-driven video dubbing. I mean, what's cooler than that? And what's amazing about it really is all the things it brings to the table in terms of efficiency, potential cost savings, of course, could be significant for really any production. And it's really why I love watching what people are doing with panels. It's super exciting to watch.
Yeah, that's right, Ray. And it's really great to hear, not just from Simon, that we'd like to thank, of course, for joining us today, but obviously looking ahead to Peter as well. So for now, it's thanks a lot to our production team for all the work that they do for the episode. But most of all, thanks a lot for you for taking the time to watch or to listen to us. So join me and Ray next time for more of the people making the media.